Hi, my name is Becca. Welcome to Raising Them Simply. Here we share a little bit about all our secular homeschool as a family of 5. Today we're going to chat just a little bit about what I wish I had known prior to starting our homeschool. First things first, I want to say thank you to everyone. We have reached over 100 subscribers. I want to thank you so much for subscribing to our channel and joining along on this journey of our homeschool. And then second of all, I am fighting a little bit of a cold here. My son had surgery recently, and between the lack of sleep from doing his medications and my daughter nursing, it's been a lot, and now I've got a cold. But we are just going to power through it and just try to move on because things got to continue on here. So the first thing that I want to say is unschooling. Now, a lot of times in these videos, you hear about unschooling your child, and that's the process of helping your child understand that we are not doing school at home, we are doing home education. And usually that pertains to a child who did school in the public sector or private schooling. We call it building school here. So if you have a child that went to building school and then you transition them into homeschooling, that would be a way that you would have to unschool your child or have them relearn that education doesn't have to look just that way. But in our case, I really had to learn how to unschool myself. Now, this might not pertain to you if you were a homeschool student yourself, but for me, I graduated through the public school system. And since I went through public school and stuff, I have this image in my head about what school should be like, right? Everyone should sit in desk, sit and look at the teacher, no talking, this is the way you learn it and this is what you do. And then we go on to this, and everything's kind of dictated and managed for you, right? And I thought this wouldn't be as much of an issue for myself as it actually was, because we've had the ability in our family to pretty much always have a parent or a family member there with our kids. They really haven't gone to daycare or a formal type of school for very much at all. There was a brief stint when my son was 2 where he went to like a Montessori program, and that was while I was going to nursing school, but that's completely different in my mind anyway. And we've done a lot of child-led type education at home, and that has, while I think that has helped, I thought that this wasn't going to be as much of an issue as it was. And it turns out that I should have spent a little more time, or maybe I should have recognized it a little bit sooner in our homeschool journey to be able to help with that. Now, while we certainly do child-led education still, where my son gets to pick, what we learn for science, or if he wants to learn math first and then reading or whatever, we certainly do that. But like I had mentioned previously, it doesn't have to be sitting at a table looking at the teacher. Things don't have to be learned in a specific way. Sometimes you have to, and this kind of leads into my next point, you have to be flexible in how you are doing your schooling and the different methods, and understanding that your student may not learn or process things the same way you do, and that is okay. But being able to recognize that and catch that, and then being able to have that flexibility and adaptability to be able to change it and understand those cues in your learner and in yourself is something that I wish I was more aware of when we started our homeschool. One example of this is that my son is very mathematically inclined. I am not. I was someone that got lost in the shuffle of the public school system, and I really did struggle in math because the teacher was not able to provide that one-on-one with me to help catch little mistakes or ways that I was doing things at the very beginning. So by the time we got to, the concept at the end, I was completely lost, and I had to relearn everything in the back. And in fact, my junior year of high school, I ended up just teaching myself math. My math teacher would lecture, and I would just look through the chapter in the book. I'd try to listen to the lecture. I wouldn't understand any of it, and I would just read the book myself and essentially taught myself math. And it's not really, it was good that I was able to catch that and be able to teach myself, but I shouldn't have to do that if I have a teacher that's teaching me that, right? And my teacher was not able to provide that one-on-one with me. So when I see my son struggling in something for math, it's very easy for me to pick up on that because I can understand and relate to why that topic would be more difficult for him to understand, right? Now on the flip side, I am much more able to gravitate toward English, literature, all of that stuff. Learning to read, that stuff came very easy and way more naturally to me than math did. My son is the complete opposite. My son does struggle with dyslexia, and because of that, I have noticed that he gets really discouraged when he doesn't get something or understand it right away. And so that leads to frustration during our school. And in fact, there's a lot of times where school has to be cut short for the day because the overwhelm is just so big for my son. Now, if you have been on my channel for a while, you know that we've had struggles trying to find the correct curriculum for my son as far as learning how to read goes. And we are currently doing All About Reading. No knock on them. That is still great and it's amazing. It's done wonders for my son. He has truly grown leaps and bounds since starting that curriculum. However, then in my mind, I'm like, we're doing the lesson's complete, we move on to the next one, right? And that's part of my public school type education, and my son needs more practice in that area before moving on. And so we're actually at a point now for our reading where we're taking a pause on All About Reading altogether, and we're doing other things like games and stuff like that, which I'll talk more about in a upcoming update video for you guys. But I'm having to have that flexibility and being able to adapt to different situations that pop up in our homeschool to accommodate my learner. And while I knew that that was something that we would come across, I didn't realize how often that was going to come up, even if we pick the right curriculum, right? Even though we do all the right things, we still have to have that flexibility and adaptability in our homeschooling to be able to best serve our learner. And that is something that I wish that I was way more aware of at the beginning of our homeschool journey. The final point that I wanted to bring up here is connection before correction. Now, if you don't know what that means, to me that means I want to be able to connect with my learner in a way first before I provide any sort of correction on their schooling. I've heard this from other homeschoolers. I'm not sure if this is the same for you. Comment down below and let me know. But it's around this age 6 where kids are way more aware of other people's emotions. They're way more aware of what other people may be thinking, and their self-esteem can easily take a hit. They want to make sure that they're not going to be teased or bullied from other kids, or what are other kids doing? Am I doing the same thing? Am I keeping up with them? And all of that stuff. And I thought that that wouldn't be play as much as a role in our homeschool because we're homeschooling, right? He's not having to feel that pressure of keeping up with 20 other kids in his classroom for math, for example, or reading, because there's not those other students there to pressure him. But it's still creeping up in not just our homeschool, but other aspects of our life too. And I need to make sure that trying to foster his spirit in a way where he doesn't feel like he can't do something. For example, I've personally never told him that he has dyslexia. I don't feel like that's something that he needs to be aware of at this time. I don't want to put labels on my son or make him feel like there is a reason why he can't understand something and then just give up, right? we just talk about how it's a little harder for him to learn to read, and that's okay. He just needs more practice. Just like when he does karate or learning how to ride a bike or rollerblading or whatever it is, he just has to practice more to fully understand it, right? So when I notice that my son is having a harder time in reading, for example, we do a pause and we shift gears. We do something else for reading, or we just go to a different subject, or we just stop school altogether. But I try to do it on a good note, right? I don't want school to end on a bad note, because that develops a whole different dislike and distaste for learning, which I do not want to have in our homeschool. Instead, what I'm trying to do more of is more praising when he does something correctly. When he reads a word, for example, that he wasn't able to read at the last lesson, and he does it pretty fluently, I make sure I acknowledge that every single time, and I try to do more connecting with him while we're learning, more praising while we're learning than I am doing as far as correcting. Now, if I notice that I am correcting or having to help him a little bit more with his schooling on a given topic, maybe more than 2 or 3 times in a row, and I'm noticing this pattern, that's when I know that we stop that and we backtrack, right? And that also helps to foster that, helps to foster his confidence in that. So right now, for example, I noticed that reading was becoming really difficult for my son, and something that he dreaded and did not want to do. But I don't want to just stop that, right? That's still something that I feel like is important that we are keeping on fairly regularly, since he's just starting to learn. And so we're doing a lot more reading games, looking at flashcards. I'm writing things on pieces of paper, and I say the word and he has to jump on the correct word on that piece of paper, different things like that, explode the code, all of those things that are able to help foster that confidence in him. And while I did know that this was something that was going to be important for our school, like I said, I don't think anyone before they start homeschooling fully understands what struggles or stuff that may pop up and how flexible you'll have to be in those different situations. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what things you wish other homeschoolers would know, or what you wish you would have known before you started homeschooling. I would love to know. Get that conversation started. Please hit that subscribe button and the bell icon. It's a free way to be notified of any content that I post, and it is a really easy way for you to get notified of future content. I will catch you guys next time. Bye.